Hello and welcome to another episode of the Now Showing podcast, where I will be taking a look at all the new movies I saw this week and giving you a quick review. First up is the David O. Russell film Amsterdam, which is now playing in theaters. It brings an all star cast and is loosely based on a true story, very loosely, but it centers on a tale of three friends, played by Christian Bale, John David Washington, and Margot Robbie. They meet at a hospital during World War One. They spend some time together in Amsterdam, but now, more than a decade later, in New York City, they're brought together again. Bert and Harold are working together. Bert, a doctor, Harold, a lawyer. A new case brings them together, and they soon find themselves accused of a crime they didn't commit. They have to go find their old friend Valerie, played by Margot Robbie, and her brother Tom, played by Rami Malek, to help solve the mystery and clear their names. Case takes some twists and turns and leads all the way back to some infamous names in Europe. There's a lot going on here and a number of threads in this story, which runs about 2 hours and 15 minutes. They don't always pull together as well as they should, and not all the storylines are as fleshed out as well as they could be. Still, the story and the writing are clever. It's not uproariously funny as it might have been trying to be, but I thought it was amusing. I enjoyed the ride for what it is, and I appreciated all the performances, especially from Bale, Washington, and Robbie. Amsterdam is now playing in theaters. I gave it 3.5 stars. Next up is the Amazon Prime film Catherine Called Birdie. In this one, Bella Ramsey takes the lead as a 14-year-old named Catherine, who is the daughter of a lord, played by Andrew Scott, and a lady, played by Billie Piper. They're in need of money, and Catherine is their only real asset. So they set out arranging a good and lucrative marriage for her. Catherine has other ideas and seeks to thwart her parents' efforts and plans to marry her off. This period piece comes from writer-director Lena Dunham. Ramsey narrates most of the journey and is the main focus. She's got plenty of spunk, something that anyone who saw Game of Thrones would already know, and that makes this film fun at times. Overall, it's a decent watch, but it was just okay. Some of the writing is clever and the performances are fine, but the story feels a little too familiar if you've seen other works in the genre. It's decent, but it's nothing incredibly special. Catherine Called Birdie is now streaming on Amazon Prime. I gave it 2.5 stars. Next up is the new Hulu film, Hellraiser. This one, as you might have guessed, is a remake of the classic film franchise. It's based on the Clive Barker story. This time we get a focus on a recovering drug addict named Riley, who comes across a puzzle box and is brought into the world of the Cenobites, a group of sadists spending their life inflicting pain. Their leader, the priest, pictured here, is played by Jamie Clayton. She pushes Riley to continue the process of picking out sacrifices, dangling the promise of her being able to bring back her brother. It turns out Riley and her friends are just pawns in another victim's game, and the question becomes, can they survive? The Hellraiser franchise is wildly popular. Since the original film debuted in 1987, there have been 11 films, including this remake. This one has been long in development, but doubtless will please longtime fans of the franchise. He keeps the dark themes and brings the violence at times. Clayton is imposing as the main antagonist, often referred to as Pinhead. I've never been an aficionado of the franchise. In fact, I believe this is my first full Hellraiser film, but I thought the production was about what I'd expect from a major horror release this time of year. Doubtless, it was a big get for Hulu, where it is now streaming. I gave it 2.5 stars. I guess it is the season for horror. Next up is The Luckiest Girl Alive, which is now streaming on Netflix. Mila Kunis takes the lead in a film here from writer Jessica Knoll, who based it on her own novel of the same name. It focuses on Annie, played by Kunis, an aspiring writer working her way up while approaching her wedding day with fiance Luke, played by Finn Wittrock. When an incident from her past resurfaces, she's drawn into painful memories she tried to bury. In order to move forward, she has to go back and confront that painful past. The story takes plenty of twists and turns. It also takes a while to get to the big inciting incident, though details of that are referenced and trickle out throughout the film. When you get to the truth, it's fascinating. It's more fascinating than the present, where Annie and her relationship with Luke never totally makes sense. Still, Kunis does a nice job in the lead role, and The actress they got to play the younger version of her also does a nice job. It's a story that's difficult to watch at times, but I was surprisingly moved by the emotional conclusion. It's now streaming on Netflix. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. The final new movie this week is Werewolf by Night, which is a new Marvel short that is playing on Disney Plus. Marvel's getting into the spirit of the season, releasing a special that's meant to elicit thrills and some chills. It takes place at night as a group of monster hunters gathers to pass the sacred stone of power. As they vie to take place as leader of the group, it turns out that one of those in attendance is harboring a dark secret of their own. Gael Garcia Bernal takes the lead here, and I love the moody atmosphere created. Most of the production is shot in black and white, with the opening credits a great nod to monster movies of an era gone by. Director Michael Giacchino does a nice job of putting the story together, and I thought Bernal was solid in the lead role. The special runs just over 50 minutes, and it works at a good pace. I enjoyed the ride, and I would be interested to see more from this world. Werewolf by Night is now streaming on Disney Plus. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. Now, to wrap things up, I turn to my streaming pick of the week, and that is Half Brothers. I know I've in the past picked ones that are brand new to streaming. This time I'm focusing on a little undiscovered gem that I found this week that is flying under the radar and is now streaming on HBO Max only until the end of the month. So you have to hurry to get to this one. In it, Renato Luis Gerardo Mendez is a successful businessman in Mexico, but he still carries the scars of his father leaving him as a boy to go find work in America. He's on the cusp of getting married, but the loss of his father has left him a bit emotionally stunted. When his father's new American wife calls to say that his father is dying, Renato's fiance urges him to go to Chicago and get the closure he needs. There, he discovers a half-brother, Asher, played by Connor Del Rio, and soon they're sent on by their departed father on a scavenger hunt to learn more about why he remained in Chicago and didn't return home to his family in Mexico. It's a simple film with a simple premise that consistently delivers. Mendez and Del Rio are great together. It's fun and a surprisingly emotional journey. It's one that pulls you in and hooks you. I was very glad that I managed to discover this film, and I'm hoping more people get a chance to see it before it rolls off of HBO Max at the end of the month. I gave it 3.5 stars, and as I said, it is on HBO Max until October 31st. Well, that's a wrap on this week's Now Showing. I hope you get a chance to see some of these movies. And until then, I will see you at the movies.